There's a strange moment in the movie 24-Hour Party People where very near the end God says to the Coogan who's playing me, you should have signed the Smiths. And when he said that, apparently a friend of mine in New York jumped up in the cinema and shouted, you should have fucking signed Madonna too, you stupid git. And until that moment I forgot that I passed on Madonna, but let's not discuss me passing on Madonna. Well, I did it for very good reasons. In fact, the reason I passed on Madonna was the same reason I passed on Soft Cell. Because I'd done pop with orchestral manoeuvres and didn't want to do pop again. The Smiths. When you don't sign a band, everyone has a different version of why you didn't sign a band. And there are 3 different versions of this story. There are Morrissey's and Mars version, which I can't even remember what theirs is, but it's a bunch of crap, because musicians are always full of crap. The truth about me is that I had the demo, I didn't listen to the demo, I'd seen the gig, I'd seen the fact they were a great band. But this was 1982. Factory had started in 1979 not promoting. And when you're the only person in the world not promoting, that's great promotion. And we were the hippest thing on God's earth. Come 1982, we'd gone into a cold period. And people in the record industry say you have to learn how to be cold. Sometimes for 2 years, sometimes for 3 years. I'd never been cold before, and I found it deeply, deeply disturbing. If you think that I put out singles that summer of '82 by, there was a Stockholm Monsters single, who were wonderful. I think we'd done the first James single, and even New Order, the song Everything's Gone Green, which I look back on as being the most important moment in electronic music. It's, it comes before Blue Monday and is truly significant. We couldn't sell that. So basically, I was very depressed with my record label, and I thought to myself, I am not going to saddle Stephen and his wonderful band with a crap record label. It wasn't until the following year with Blue Monday that Factory took off again, by which time that was history. So for me personally, I was depressed by my label, I couldn't sell what I was doing, so why saddle Morrissey with my problems? That's my version, but I wasn't the only member of Factory. The main man, Rob Gretton, my partner, manager of Joy Division New Order, his attitude was, and he told the Smiths, he said, your demo's fucking shit. Give us a good demo and we'll sign you. Now, this is the man who was walking around Manchester telling everyone, strangers on the street, the Smiths are the new Beatles. The Smiths are the new Beatles. And Rob knew the Smiths were the new Beatles, but Rob had a principle. The demo was shit, we're not signing you. Give us a good demo, then we'll sign you. So Rob had his reason, even though he, like I, wasn't daft. It was clear they were a wonderful band. But Rob wanted a good demo, and me, I wanted to have a real record label, which at that point in time, it's my first ever experience of being cold. I've learnt now, you're cold for 2 years, you just keep on plodding on, and then you're hot again. And Factory was hot and cold, but that was my first cold period, and I personally wasn't willing to sacrifice Stephen on the altar of what I thought was a very poor record label at that time. However, historically, it's incredibly important, and this is probably rather arcane for viewers of documentaries about music. This is about the music business. At this point in the early 80s, the British independent scene had really started. It grew out of Rough Trade Records, the Rough Trade record shop having its own distribution system, and it grew out of Rob Gretton's decision not to take Joy Division to Warner Brothers, but to do their first album, Unknown Pleasures, on Factory. And this created the indie scene, and the indie scene was beginning to blossom. And obviously, Factory, Mute, 4AD, then Creation, everybody, it dominated the 80s and was wonderful. But it wouldn't have happened if Morrissey hadn't have signed to Rough Trade, because in 1980 to 82, Rough Trade distribution was getting into financial difficulties. And to be quite honest, every time they had a Depeche Mode album, they'd pay us for the last Joy Division album they couldn't pay for. And then when they got the Joy Division album, they'd pay Mute for their Depeche Mode album they couldn't pay them for. And this was going on. If they hadn't have signed the Smiths and had that wonderful success, then, to be quite honest, I don't think Rough Trade would have survived. Rough Trade would have gone bust, leaving us with the one distributor we were with, Pinnacle, who themselves went bankrupt in 1983. At which point we would all have given up or gone to the majors. So the British independent scene was preserved by Morrissey signing with Johnny to Rough Trade.